And disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Peace. What it is your brother Tyvon Sueno, aka the Orthodox Moor, aka the Seven Pillar Saracen, aka Brother Moore. Wishing you all peace and blessings, and a Shabbat Shalom, and Ramadan Mubarak for those who are fasting. I hope y'all are having a good day out there. I don't know how long this show is going to be. We'll see. Not a whole lot of information to get to, but a lot of good information to get to. But just a little backdrop. I've been having a lot of conversations in the past couple months with people from the conscious community, people in the UA community, people in a whole bunch of communities, right? I've been talking to people for years in the UK and like the Speaker's Corner community, etc. And it's a lot of the same arguments year after year, day after day, etc. A lot of people think that a lot of people in the African diaspora believe that if you claim to or if you follow Islam, Christianity, or Judaism in some way, shape, or form, that you're some form of a sellout, some form of a coon, etc. And we have people in the conscious community specifically who make this claim. And people like Dr. Reggie in particular, who I'm going to address here, Brother Reggie, etc. He debated my good brother Yara, Elder Yara. You've seen him debate on this channel multiple times. Shout out to Elder Yara, aka the Sinetta Slapper. He was on Sinetta's channel a little while ago and debated Brother Reggie on some stuff about Jews in West Africa, etc. And Reggie had made a claim that I thought was intriguing. He made a claim that there was basically, like, even if you're claiming to be an Israelite, like you're misappropriating the thing because you're really a Christian, and you can't even prove that there's Christianity or the Gospels in West Africa, etc. None of them kind of things. And like, it made me have to take a step back, right? So I have Christians in my family, I have Muslims in my family, I have Jews in my family, I have atheists in my family. I'm sure if I look hard, if I got people doing African spirituality stuff in my family, right? And because of such, I have a profound respect for all the traditions and whatnot. And when I look at people in the diaspora, the African diaspora, particularly in North America, I recognize that we don't all have the same lineage. That there's different avenues of the slave trade, and different peoples came from different parts of Africa in the slave trade. You'll hear me talk about over 500,000 people coming from East Africa. You'll hear me talking about people coming from the rice coast of Africa, people coming from the Senegambia, people coming from Angola, etc. These are very different peoples, and they need to be understood as to who they are, what the cultures are, etc. And then it's not a big monolith. In that respect, I am a pan-nationalist. I support you in whatever nationality and identity you choose to have as somebody who's a descendant of people coming off slave ships and whatnot. Because the reality is we had our traditions taken from us. And so, for the most part, some people were able to hold on to a lot of traditions. Like shout out to the Gullah people, shout out to the Gullah Geechee and whatnot. But a lot of people are going through the process of trying to find out who they are, who they connect to, traditions they come from, etc. And to that regard, like I said, I'm a pan-nationalist. I'm not tripping on whatever you choose to connect to. In that same regard, though, I'm saying like there's no need to trip on what I connect to as well. And so I see a lot of disingenuous concepts coming from the conscious community, right? Particularly in this respect, like, so I can understand people like Brother Reggie making arguments against people that say everybody that came off the slave ship was an Israelite, or everybody that came off the slave ship was a Moor, etc., etc., etc. Anybody who's trying to make the monolithic argument that we are one single people coming off the slave ship, like that doesn't make sense to me. Because like I said, we all come from different, like there's different parts of Africa that people are coming from. Different traditions, different languages, different cultures, all that kind of stuff. Certain things similar, a lot of things different. And again, like I said, not one monolithic people. But this is where I find it disingenuous. Like so Brother Reggie like claims to be Kemetic in his tradition, right? But can't cite you the Kemetic tradition in West Africa during the time of slavery, etc. As he's about. Watch this. I'm gonna play this video here, and you're gonna ask him. You're gonna hear him ask my good brother Yara for proof of the Gospels in West Africa during the time of the slave trade. And with that question, like, okay, like if you're being fair, can you show me the Kemetic tradition in West Africa during that time period? I mean, I don't even trip on the Kemetic tradition. Like, shout out to my people like Asaram Khan and whatnot. I don't even beef on it. Like, there's a lot of the Kemetic tradition that I deal with and whatnot. You'll see me bring that out in terms of like autentism, etc. I got no issue with people connecting to be Kemetic, right? I got an issue with people having double standards and being disingenuous in how they approach things. So if you want to make the claim that the Abrahamic traditions are the white man's religions, etc., and they came to us via the white man, etc., I don't mind having the conversation with anybody on that topic, right? Just as long as we're having an honest, genuine conversation where we're just dealing with the information, dealing with the facts and whatnot, right? Because I can't have the emotional conversation with people, particularly grown people. And particularly people who are way older than me, because like I expect that we should be able to have an intellectual conversation. But to that end, I'm gonna play this video I'm gonna play this clip a couple times and let y'all hear what Reggie asked my brother Yara, and Yara gives him a great answer, and I'm gonna expound on the answer that he gives. But real quick, let me find my joint. There we go. Let me mute out and play this right quick.
Of Jesus Christ. So he is misappropriating, stealing, theft, Hebrew culture to create something. So I'm waiting for him to show in West Africa. I'm waiting for him to show West Africa gospels of his Messiah or his anointed one as the slave trade increases or begins. So, and I'm just waiting for that. And so I have more sources from 50 years.
I'm going to run that back a couple more times, right? A couple more times.
Christ. So he is misappropriating, stealing, theft, Hebrew culture to create something. So I'm waiting for him to show in West Africa. I'm waiting for him to show West Africa gospels of his Messiah or his anointed one as the slave trade increases or begins. So
he wants to see evidence of the gospels of Jesus Christ in West Africa as the slave trade increases and begins. Right? And again, if he's being genuine, he's going to offer proof of his Kemetic tradition at that same time period. If he's being genuine. Now, the good brother Yara responds with the concept of the fact that a lot of Israelites in West Africa converted to Islam, and that in Islam they have the concept of the Injil. And so, to be a Muslim, you have to confirm Jesus as the Messiah and as a prophet, and you have to confirm the Torah, the Zabur, and the Injil, etc. The writings of Moses, the writings of David, and the writings of Isa or Jesus. And you're going to consistently find that the conscious community has no answer for the information that is derived from Christians and or Israelites converting to Islam. The Islamic Israelite concept really throws a wrench in their plans, because it's well documented in Islamic sources and Arabic sources, particularly West African Islamic and Arabic sources. So to that end, if you want to go, please go check out that whole video and go check out my man Yara's channel. I got that link down below. The whole video, like he got a whole debate chopped up in like 3 different videos on his channel. Please go check it out. Subscribe to his channel if you're digging what he's talking about. But I'm going to remove this and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show 2 things, right? And this is what I was saying about I'll just say like this. Like, so I'm going to take a different approach to how I do apologetics, period, right? I'm stepping into like just some Abrahamic apologetics right now, in the sense to where I don't got beef with Christians. I don't have beef with Christians. I'm a Muslim, 100%, yeah. But I don't have any differences with the Nazarene tradition, right? As the Quran talks about, right? I don't forsake my Israelite tradition in any way, shape, or form. And on top of that, the concept of there not being like a messianic concept in West Africa, aside from the Muslims, because again, Muslims have a messianic concept. Muslims have a messianic concept. So this whole thing about Abrahamic traditions coming to us from the white man, right? That's got to just get killed. That whole concept's got to get just deaded right quick. And I'm going to dead that conversation. And we're just going to do it real plain and simple and do it like this. I'm going to defend Christians, Muslims, and Jews in West Africa prior to colonialism. And this is for the conscious community, period. Like, so whether you UA, take this and run with it if you want to. I've already seen some people using this information, like Adam Coleman using a little bit of it, not trying to show all of it. And I can understand why he's not going to want to show all of it. But for me, I got no issue showing all of it, right? Because I don't reject the Afro-Asiatic Christian tradition and the Afro-Asiatic Jewish tradition and the Afro-Asiatic Islamic tradition. I don't reject none of that. I accept all that type of stuff. But like I said, this is going to be something for everybody. Like, so whether you're Muslim, Christian, or an Israelite, and you're of African descent, West African descent, this is something I want all y'all to pay. Like, I'm gonna start laying some foundational building blocks on some information everybody needs to understand in terms of the context of certain parts of West Africa and certain time periods in West Africa, etc. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. I got a couple presentations to show, so let me see which one I want to show. Let's go with, my man wanted to talk about the Gospels. Right? And again, no beef with Brother Reggie, man. Brother Reggie is actually really respectful when he talks. I like his tone. I would sit down and build with Reggie any day of the week. So, Brother Reggie, if you're listening, open door to come and build whenever you want to, fam. And likewise, I'll go build with you on some other channel. You know what I'm saying? No issue. But to the question, was the gospel in West Africa? Was the gospel in West Africa? Hold on, let me make sure y'all are seeing it proper. There we go. Much better. Brother Reggie claims there was no gospels of Jesus or Christians in West Africa. Again, prior to colonialism. Again, a lot of people understand that there was a Christianity in Angola in I believe the late 1400s, early 1500s, etc. But we're talking prior to that concept, because that's Catholicism, right? We're talking prior to that concept. And so I want everyone to pay attention again, if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, etc., Israelite, etc. The Islamic sources corroborate all this. Like when I saw Adam Coleman break out like one of my books, I was like, "Oh, word! We get to use Islamic sources now. It's on the cracking." Because it really just deads the conversation. Shout out to people like Adam Coleman. Shout out to people like Vince Bantu and all them who are using Islamic sources to prove the thing. Because it's everything we're talking about is well documented. The migration patterns from East to West Africa, from Southern Arabia, etc., from the Levant, etc., all that stuff is well documented. The migrations from North Africa to West Africa, well documented. But to that end, there is a book that I think everybody should go check out. Whether you, no matter what your background, if you are somebody who was from the African diaspora and your ancestors were on slave ships, this is a book that I think you should have. It's called Servants of Allah: African Muslims Enslaved in the Americas, and it's important because it documents, again, by Sylvian Daouf, a wonderful author and scholar. This book documents a lot of literary history and other history that you can find amongst not just Islamic culture, but people who were educated in Islamic West Africa, because not everybody educated in Islamic West Africa were Muslims. And so this book helps to paint that picture, and people need to understand that concept, that in Islamic West Africa, just because you got people writing in Arabic does not necessarily mean that they're Muslims. You could be Christian, you could be Jewish, you could be none of the above. None of the above. This book even documents someone who is believed to be secular or an atheist who could read and write Arabic from West Africa, because in West Africa you could go to any one of the madrasas or zawiyas and learn and learn Arabic and learn how to read and write, and not you didn't have to be a Muslim. So again, Servants of Allah, fantastic book. No matter what your descent, no matter what your religious descent, if you come from the African diaspora and your ancestors came in on slave ships, this is a very important book to have. Again, here's a bit about the author, Sylvian Dove. She's a PhD and is an award-winning historian of the African diaspora and a curator, social historian. Dr. Diouf focuses on uncovering essential stories and topics that were overlooked or negated, but which offer new insights into the African diaspora. She has a special interest in the experience of the Africans deported to the Atlantic and Indian Ocean worlds, and in the particular experience of African Muslims. She is the author of Slavery's Exiles, The Story of the American Maroons, Servants of Allah, African Muslims Enslaved in the Americas, Dreams of Africa in Alabama, The Slave Ship Clotilda, and The Story of the Last Africans Brought to America, etc. This is all from her website. But in Servants of Allah, chapter 4, on literacy, etc., and that chapter goes from pages 159 to 209. You can see this here. So on page 165, you have 3 Muslims, 2 of Fulani descent, 1 of Mandingo descent, in the Americas, right? So we have Abdul Rahman Ibrahim ibn Sari, Abu Bakr al-Sadiq, and Omar ibn Said, all having Bibles in Arabic in their possessions in the Americas. So there were Bibles in Arabic amongst the slaves in the Americas. Now, that's for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. One, Christians were trying to evangelize West African Muslims and evangelize slaves, etc. as well, all at the same time, actually trying to evangelize the people in West Africa and the slaves at the same time. And they were actually having books made into, or they were having their own Arabic Bibles printed, etc. However, such already was in existence and had been for centuries. So in certain situations, they're procuring these Bibles, getting them off the open market. Again, there's trade with North Africa, where you can get these things from. You can get this literature from Egypt, from Morocco, potentially even West Africa. And you're also having people in the West doing things like learning Arabic, etc., and trying to print Bibles in Arabic for the slaves, like I said, and for people in West Africa. But on top of that, on page 180, we have London, a Mandingo slave, who wrote the Gospel of John in Arabic, circa 1844. Himself wrote the Gospel of John in Arabic. And again, on page 165, there is a Scottish explorer who went to the Senegambia twice, and there found books called the Tawrat al-Musa, the Torah of Moses, Zabur Dawidi, the Zabur of David, and the Injil la Isa, the Injil of Jesus or Isa. And these were found on expeditions made from 1795 to 1806. So this is on pages 165 and 166 in Servants of Allah, chapter 4. So this is page 61 of Servants of Allah. And this is talking about in Islamic West Africa. Besides their literacy and dedication to their faith, what distinguished the clerics, teachers, students, rulers, and traders was their contact with the wider world, the intelligentsia of Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Iraq, Egypt, and Arabia, who met in Mecca and Cairo or in their homeland when the foreigners visited. The scholars were familiar with the works of Muslim intellectuals from a wide range of countries that used Arabic as their vehicle of communication. They also had access to books from other religions in their Arabic versions, as confirmed by Mungo Park. Mungo Park is that Scottish explorer I was talking about, who mentions having seen the Pentateuch of Moses, the Psalms of David, and the New Testament of Jesus that he called the Book of Isaiah during his travel in Senegambia at the end of the 18th century. He also again found amongst them, and this is widely known because Muslims were widely involved in translating these kind of works early on in Islam. You had philosophers such as Plato, Aristotle, Hippocrates, and Uslid were also known in Arabic translations. But again, so this isn't the book of Isaiah. When it says Lingili la Isa, that is the Injil, or the Gospel of Isa, or the Gospel of Jesus. And if you can hear the tone and how I'm saying it, like it's talking about on page 165 and 166, that sounds like Spanish, right? Like, so you're getting this Andalusian vibe, right? And so it's telling you here that that they had connection with the intelligentsia of Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, etc. So we're talking about North Africa, right? Like, so the trade from the Senegambia went straight north through Morocco to the Iberian Peninsula. So there's libraries in Timbuktu and Mali. There's libraries in Morocco. There's libraries in Mauritania, etc. Libraries in the Iberian Peninsula, and that becomes important going further. So this is Mungo Park, like I said, the Scottish explorer, and he made 2 trips into West Africa, into the Senegambia, going from Senegal into Mali. And this is a map of his trip, like I said, starting in Senegal. And he was mobbing on the first trip, again, 1795 to 1797, right? It's 2 years long, right? Then the next trip is from 1805 to 1806. But I want you to pay attention to these names, because these names are going to be important going further. But you see the name Bondu. So that's going to come up. We're going to see how that connects to Senegal, etc. We're going to see the name Silla. We're going to see the name Timbuktu. And there's certain cultural names to pay attention to, like the Manding, the Bambara. Even the Torah are going to be interesting at one point. But also pay attention to this area of the Senegal River. And understand this is going to be an important area to understand going forward. And above Senegal, we have Mauritania right here. So we have Senegal, Mauritania, and Mali, all right here. Going forward. So in the book Christians in Al-Andalus, 711 to 1000, by Ann Christus, it on page 155, it says this. Ishaq ibn Balaska of Cordoba translated the Gospels into Arabic in 946 AD. 946 AD. So that's well before Catholics make it to West Africa and do anything in Angola. Well before. And again, this is in Islamic Iberia in 946 AD. This is not Christian Iberia in 946 AD. We also have Hafs ibn al-Badr made a translation of the Psalms into Arabic in 889. Again, this is not. First of all, I believe these are Christians. Second of all, like I said, they're not These aren't Roman Catholic translations. And so in the Islamic world and the way the trade's running, you got trade like so. Reggie just gave actually a wonderful presentation where he was showing the trade routes in West Africa, and you could see the north-south routes going from the Senegambia and from Mali going to Morocco, etc., which connect to Al-Andalus, etc. And so just understand that from the 9th and 10th century, this literature was available as close as Al-Andalus being translated into Arabic, as close as that. Now, that's not even saying that that's not saying it wasn't being translated elsewhere, but this is stuff we can definitely point to. So Ulysses Santa Maria, Black Jews, the religious challenge of politics versus religion. Page 235 says this. In southern Nigeria, the natives call Black Jews the strange people on the Imo Yokwaim. They are called the Bani Ephraim, the sons of Ephraim. They claim that their ancestors came from Morocco, and this is supported by Godby, who noted that their language is a mixture of Maghrebian Arab, ancient Hebrew, and local patois. For example, Abu, meaning father, became Yaba. For mother is close to the Hebrew word. These Imo Yokwaim Jews live in the Ondo district and have a copy of the Torah. So we have people, and when you go into it, these people are Yoruba. So we have Yoruba people in southern Nigeria with the Torah. Again, Godby is another European that's going around confirming these things. And they're saying that they got a north-south migration coming from Morocco, etc. Then again, these people are E1B18, fam, when you test them out. I'm not even E1B18, but it's just to point that out. The vast majority of Europe are E1B18. Vast majority. So we got the Torah. We got the writings of David. And we got the Injil in West Africa. Hold on, let me see. I know I got more. Yeah, let's go into it. No, wait. Hold on. Let me skip that. And let me go into this real quick. So Christian Arabic manuscripts from the Iberian Peninsula and North Africa, a historical interpretation. For sake of time, I'm not going to go into all this man's information. And I'm definitely not going to butcher his name. But shout out to my G. He studied law and Semitic languages with a concentration on Arabic philology at the Free University of Amsterdam. Shout out to the Dutch homie, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, check out what he has to say. Like you can pause this up and read all this info. But like I said, for sake of time, I'm gonna get going real quick because he says some real interesting things in his article here, right? So manuscripts from North Africa. It says, notwithstanding the great importance of the Arabic language from the Christians of Al-Andalus, we do not possess a single indication that among them the Mass was ever celebrated in any other language than Latin. On the other hand, the Bible, especially the Gospels, the Pauline epistles, and the Psalms may have been read to the Christian congregations in Arabic. This conclusion, based on the available historical evidence, seems to be true also for those Andalusian Christians who had been deported to North Africa in the early 12th century. Their clergymen seem to have possessed Latin liturgical books. Among the liturgical objects found in Marrakesh in that time, in the house of a Christian man accused of having converted to Islam outwardly, only there were some books in Latin script. On the other hand, the Christian Arabic manuscripts produced among the clergymen of Andalusian origin living in North Africa, as far as we know, consisted of biblical text exclusively. We have to start our discussion of this group of manuscripts with a comparatively late item because it contains a number of valuable clues for the dating and localizing of other manuscripts. I'm referring to a manuscript of the Gospels, which was discovered by the Inquisition in the possession of Morisco physician Maestro Andres, and was examined by the interpreter of the Holy Office. So, long story short, we see that in North Africa that there was also Arabic Christian manuscripts, or Christian Arabic manuscripts, excuse me. So and this is what I'm saying. We have people consistently saying they're migrating as well. And so we know that the migration, people want to say that the migrations from Al-Andalus and whatnot into the Maghreb and into Africa were all European. The genetics doesn't bear that out. You can see that in some places, yeah. So you can go into the Sao Tome DNA, etc., whatnot, and you can see to where you do have the R, you do have the J, etc., right? However, when you go into the same DNA, you see the E1B1A and the E1B1B. And you see those same markers also in Al-Andalus in the DNA that you see there being dug up. You see E1B1A and you do see E1B1B, etc. So you can't discount a migration of E1B1A and E1B1B coming down into the Senegambia, etc. Because again, we definitely see that. And we have people saying that, and on top of that, we have a people like the Yoruba Jews, etc., in southern Nigeria, with the Torah and whatnot, speaking a mixture of Maghrebian Arabic, Hebrew, and Patois, saying that they're coming down from Morocco and whatnot with E1B1A DNA. So we can see a consistent migration down a consistent line of scrolls. But on top of that, like I read earlier, you got a connection from, again, Timbuktu is one of the that's a major trading spot, fam. Major trading spot. The Senegambia linked up with it. The Senegambia is part of like Senegal, etc. is part of the Mali Empire. When you have Mansa Musa going over into Egypt, dropping all kind of gold and whatnot, going into Mecca, doing getting in for Hajj and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And this is why people need to understand the Islamic sources in West Africa. But I'm going to get into them even more so. So real quick, I'm going to share my screen one more time. And I'm going to break down some sources talking about Christians in West Africa. Again, Christians in pre-colonial West Africa. This is another important book to own. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or not. If you're a Christian, if you are an African descent Christian in the Americas, if you're an Israelite or a Jew, etc., of African descent in the Americas, this is an important book to own and understand. because again, there's a lot of things that you're not going to understand unless you can go through the Arabic sources in West Africa, which are very thick and heavy. Very thick and heavy. The corpus of early Arabic sources for West African history. Very, very important book to have on your show. And shout out to Danny Marnici for recommending this book to me, because I enjoy it very much. And to that end, let me get right into some of the information in this book. So on page 310, it says this. I have the person who collected the information at the bottom of the screen. I got the page over here. Definitely, this is for the actual physical book. This is not for like an electronic copy. So if you haven't, I don't even know if they have an electronic copy of the book, but if you have one, the page numbers most likely are going to be different. So it says Abu Abdullah bin Yahya al-Zuhri says that the people of the lands of the Sudan, whose capital city is Ghana, formerly professed Christianity until the year 1076 to 1077, when they turned Muslim and became good Muslims. And then again, this is by Al-Qulal, and that's going to be an interesting name to get into after a while. And I'm probably going to butcher this one right here, because I'm a little tired of my eyes to dry. But Al-Mawashiyah. There we go. Al-Khalal Al-Mawashiyah. There we go. Now, furthermore, again, just to be clear, in the capital city, or whose capital city is Ghana, formerly professed Christianity until 1076, 1077, right? Page 250. Now, this is I want people to pay attention to this part. So, again, Mansa Musa going to Egypt and whatnot, dropping all kind of gold to the point to where he affects the gold price for a decade, fam. A decade, fam. We're talking like the African Scrooge McDuck in this piece. You feel me? Balling way too hard. Way too hard. I want you to hear what it says here, right? What Ibn al-Wadari records here, right? So in the year 1324, this first year here, I want people to understand it has to do with the Islamic timing, and they typically do things about like after Hijrah or whatnot, right? Which is it's has to do with like Islamic dating and whatnot, and after people making a trip in Islam and whatnot. Long story. However, what it translates to in Western timing is 1324 AD, right? So in the year 1324, the king of Takrur arrived for the noble Hijaz. His name was Abu Bakr bin Musa. He remained in Egypt for a year before taking himself to the Hijaz. He had much gold with him. His is the country which put forth gold. Now, I want you to pay attention to how they're talking to him, right? So this is the king of Mali, right? Takrur is not the name of Mali. Takrur is a place in Mali, in the kingdom of Mali. So on page 310, it talked about in the kingdom of in the Sudan and its capital of Ghana. This place of Takrur is an area that used to also be part of the Ghana Empire, and eventually became part of the Mali Empire. But it's located in northern Senegal and southern Mauritania. Going further, still on page 250, I asked the king of Takrur, talking about Abu Bakr, etc., bin Musa, etc., right? How is the description of the place where gold grows with you? And like understand how they talk about this term grows, right? Because in the Middle East, they like so much gold is coming from us that like they're seeing so much gold coming at this situation, right? Like they're assuming it grows in the ground like carrots is like what someone says at one point. Grows in the ground like carrots is what they're assuming because like people are coming through with so much anyway. Baller fan. And I asked the king of Takrur, how is the description of the place where gold grows with you? He replied, it is not in that part of our land that belongs to the Muslims, but in the land which belongs to the Christians of Takrur. He's saying, we don't have the gold like that. The Christians of Takrur have the gold like that. So this was like a lot of people know the concept of Manji going to Egypt, dropping all kind of gold and whatnot, but a lot of people don't know this aspect of it. He's saying, yeah, that's not even our joint. We're getting it from the Christians, man. So we got one source talking about these people in the area being Christian until 1076, and in 1324. We have the king of Takrur or the king of Mali, right? I'll get into why they call him the king of Takrur in a minute. He's saying that the gold is coming from the Christians of Takrur. In 1324, that's before colonialism. Even more so on 250, going further. He says, we dispatch collectors to take from them a species of tribute due to us and obligatory upon them. And when you get into the depths of this family, he's talking about a tithe, like a 10% tithe, a 10% tax on the gold, etc. Which is crazy when you think about it. Now, I'll get into this in other videos, but like, yeah, this is the 10% tax, which is crazy when you think about it, because off a tithe, my man went to Egypt and was able to affect the gold price for 10 years. Anyway, these are special lands which put forth gold in this fashion. It consists of small pieces of varying sizes, some like little rings, some like carob seeds, and the like. Going further still on page 250. I said, why don't you take this land by conquest? He replied, if we conquer and take it, it does not put forth anything. We have done this in many ways, but seen nothing there. But when it returns, it puts forth as usual. This is a most amazing thing and is perhaps due to an increase in the oppressiveness of the Christians. Now, when certain Christian apologists read the section right here, they like to cherry pick this part here, but they won't read this bit I'm about to say here. This is a most amazing thing and is perhaps due to an increase in the oppressiveness of the Christians. Now, what does that mean? That means that since the Christians knew, like, so the Muslims and Christians came to this understanding. The Muslims like, okay, we try to take the land over. They asked, like, why don't you just take the land and just take the mines over? Like, yo, what it is? He's like, oh, you ain't thought we tried that? You ain't thought we tried that? No, we tried that, fam. But when we tried that, we couldn't make the land produce like the natives made it produce. So when we turned it back over to them, the lands would produce again. And because they knew they could do such, it's saying that the Christians started flexing on cats, bro. That they started flexing. So not only were they there, they could flex for a little bit. Because they're saying you can't produce the gold we can produce. So here is a map of the Ghana Empire circa 1200. And so you can see here the Senegal River, etc. And you can see Takrur covering part of northern Senegal and also Mauritania. And it looks like it may even run into a little bit of where Mali was at. But you can see that, again, this is Ghana circa 1200. The Ghana Empire. Yeah, so this might throw people off too, because Mali's not down here during this time, during modern times, right? However, you're going to see to where like the Mali Empire, if you're familiar with it, you understand what it looks like, but a lot like this here. And so we see here where Takrur was part of the Mali kingdom, and so again, you got the Senegal River and Takrur being part of northern Senegal and in southern Mauritania. And so there's two spots in West Africa that a lot of people talk about gold coming from. And one of the main spots was Takrur. And people need to understand that. People need to understand it. Shout out to the Yoruba homies with the Torah. You know what I'm saying? Shabbat Shalom. And what people also need to understand is that this area later turns into Futa Toro, which is a heavy Fulani run area that a lot of jihads and other things spring from. But it's not just Fulani people. It's a group of Muslims who have a clerisy. They have clerics that go amongst the Hausa, the Fulani, the Wolof, the Mandinka, and even the Berber. And so they're of these four different groups, but they all speak a Fulani language, etc. Right? And you can see this particular group of people using the tithing system in West Africa. And again, this becomes a really interesting concept because in this part of West Africa, there's a lot of Hebraic culture. So we see Israelites there, we see Christians there, we see Muslims there, and we even see the Muslims that are there using a tithing system where most Muslims don't use a tithe. And we see that even in Al-Andalus, they were using a tithe. But what's interesting, well, I'll get into that in a later video, but long story short, you see a lot of Hebrew culture in West Africa here. So I want to keep this charitable right now. This is useful for Muslims, Christians, Jews of African descent in the Americas. Prior to colonialism, you have Hebrew culture all over the place in the parts of West Africa that we come from. This place called Sokoto, right? This is in Nigeria. Messina, this is in Mali, in Timbuktu, etc. Futa Jalon, this is in Guinea, etc. Right? Futa Toro, again, this is Senegal. This is Mauritania, etc. Going further, this is Golden Trade of the Moors. Another good book to have. It says this on page 83. In the 11th century, Takrur was home of the Tukulor, who later settled in Futa, where they are still known as Tekarir. The first dynasty of Takrur, of which tradition has preserved the memory, is that of Dia Ogo, probably of foreign origin, who founded a chieftaincy about AD 850. This was overthrown circa 980 by the Mana, a Soninke chieftaincy. According to Al-Bakri, this ruling I left out one word. It should say ruling class of Takrir, or something of that name. Yeah, was the first Negro family to join Islam. So according to Al-Bakri, this ruling family, that's what it is, ruling family of Takrur, was the first Negro family to join Islam. So amongst this Tukulor people, we have the Fulani, we have the Mandinka, we have the Hausa, the Wolof, etc. So we see them in Takrur. And so we also see the Soninke in Takrur. Going further, Encyclopedia of Ethiopia, Volume 4, pages 998 to 1000. This is I want people to get into understanding why this name is known in or why people in East Africa are calling the king of Mali the king of Takrur. Takrur in Amharic, right? This is a Ethiopic language. Takrur in Amharic is mainly used to designate persons of West or Central African origin living scattered in Ethiopian and Eritrean territories. Takrur from Takrur was the name of a medieval capital of a West African kingdom by the same name known by Arab geographers. The kingdom was located on the lower Senegal River, and it flourished for a short period in the 11th century AD. From the 4th century AD, Arab writers in the Mediterranean region usually applied the name Takrur Takrur, excuse me, in reference to the entire area of Muslim West Africa and its inhabitants. So this is why they didn't call him the king of Mali and whatnot. And this actually, when you get into certain sources, he found it offensive that he was called the king of Takrur and not Mali, because Takrur was just one small section of Mali. But going further, on page 998 still, it says the Nisba Takruri, plural Takarir or Takarna, was and is still used in the Middle East and the Nile Valley to refer to Muslim West Africans, individuals and communities in general. From the 15th century, biographical works include persons who lived in the Middle East with the Nisba al-Takruri attached to their name. West African pilgrims to Mecca have also been identified as Takrur, as well as those individuals and communities who have settled in the Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia on their way to Mecca or upon their return from pilgrimage. Now, what's interesting is what I'm about to read here, is that there's even a back migration going from West Africa to East Africa. Now, these are people I'm about to read about, like the Hausa and Fulani. These people have a migration, an east to west migration, right? A lot of their stories talk about east to west migration, but there's even a back migration back to the east, which I found fascinating. It says here on page 998 again that many Takrur of the Horn of Africa have their origins in the wider Nigerian region, sultanates of Bornu, Kanem, and other regions, dominated by Fulani, i.e. Falata, and or by Hausa. Some, however, have no connection to these regions, but are also called Takrur by their neighbors due to a local reinterpretation of the term as meaning people with black skin and curly hair. So definitely not a Europoid concept, or not a European concept. The people of Takrur or Takruri people are not considered to be European in phenotype. The phenotype is considered to be, again, it's cognate to black skin and curly hair. Except these, all the Takrur are Muslims. Takrur communities mainly exist all along the western border area of the historical Abyssinian highlands, from the western Eritrean lowlands down to Benai, Sangul, etc., etc., etc. Going on to page 99 and 1000, several Takrur settlers of West African origin, mostly Hausa, but also Falata, have migrated from the Sudan to Western Ethiopia, at least starting from the early 20th century. I thought was fascinating because, again, we're talking about like the Hausa speak like an Afro-Asiatic language. So these are people who have an east to west migration, and you can see this in their DNA along with the Fulani as well. And I found this to be fascinating. They even back migrated to where they came from at one point, or at least the direction in which they came from. Let's see what else I got here. What else I got here? Yeah, that's it for right now. That's it for right now. Let's see. How am I doing on time? Just a little over an hour. Just a little over an hour. But yeah, to be clear, family, 100% clear. Not only was Christianity in West Africa, but the Gospels were in West Africa as well, prior to colonialism. So the messianic concept, this whole bit about, oh, you can be, because a lot of people are starting to cave now because like they know like, oh, like the Hebrew are being declared Jews, etc., etc., etc. Like, oh, like, so you might be Jewish, but you got to rock with the Talmud, and you got to rock with this and the third. You can only rock with the Torah. You can't rock with the Gospels because now you're a Christian. There's no people in West Africa doing that. There's no messianic Christian in West Africa. Like, no, stop it, fam. First of all, Islam just kills that. And shout out to LD Hour for bringing that information out as well. Citing to Dr. Reggie, like, or Brother Reggie, that no, in Islam they have the they have the concept of the Injil and the Torah and the Zabur, and you got to confirm Jesus as the Messiah and a prophet, right? But not only that, we have actual documentation of Christians in West Africa prior to colonialism. So, Brother Reggie, I hope you learned something from that. This isn't like a gotcha thing. This isn't a beef thing. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk with you about this. But yeah, man. Unfortunately, your information is incorrect on this, and so from brother to brother, I would respectfully ask that one, you change your tone on this concept, but two, just recognize a small bit of hypocrisy as well, right? Because I'm gonna say it like this: we can document again the Judaism, the Christianity, and the Islam of West Africa, but we're not seeing you document the Kemetic tradition in West Africa. And here's the cold part, bro. Even if you want to, you're gonna have to go to the Arabic sources in West Africa to do it. So, just food for thought, fam. Just food for thought. But with that, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I pray y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. And with that, I say peace and love.